Hello, students. So I'm going to go ahead and read chapter 7, 8, and 9 from Gary Soto's Pacific Crossing. Please make sure that you are following along. So if you have any questions for the text, you can go ahead and jot those down. So chapter 7, here we go. The next day, Lincoln and Mitsu worked in the field again, this time hauling buckets of water to irrigate the rows. They worked hard, shirtless. Flies nibbled at their backs, and Lincoln and Mitsu complained and cursed their luck. But secretly, they felt good. At lunch, they sat on the ingawa eating nigirimeshi rice balls and drinking a pitcher of iced tea. They're good, Lincoln said as he chomped into the rice balls. But wouldn't you rather have a hamburger, Mitsu asked. Lincoln shook his head. You know what I'd like to have? A burrito. Lincoln cleared his throat. A tortilla with frijoles. Mitsu tilted his head curiously and asked, what is tortilla? And that other word? Frijoles? Lincoln licked his lips and drank long and hard from his glass. A stream of tea actually ran down his chest and pooled into his belly button. He laughed as he wiped his belly. It's this way, Mitsu. I'm from California, but I'm Mexican-American. And that is Mexican-American food. Mexican and American, Mitsu said slowly, reflecting on the words. Are you from two countries? Well, sort of. Just like you, if you came to the United States, you would be Japanese-American. Ah, I understand. Then you're from Mexico. No, California. Then your mother is from Mexico? Nope, she's from California too. Then it must be your father. No, not him either. It's my grandparents. Mitsu looked at Lincoln and said, family history is very complicated. My father says we're from the samurai line. Really? Lincoln asked, his interest piqued. He says so, but I doubt it. Our family has been farmers for centuries. I don't think we have samurai blood. My father's always making things up. I can relate. My mom says that we're descendants of Aztec warriors. But look at my legs. They're so skinny. He gripped his thighs with both hands. After lunch, the two boys left with fishing poles and tackle. Just outside of town, they hopped a ride on the back of a produce truck, and 3 dusty miles later, they jumped off when the truck slowed at a railroad crossing. Only now aware that they had ridden his truck, the driver cursed and shook a fist at them. Lincoln and Mitsu ran away, their poles jumping about on their shoulders. They walked another mile, the sun beating down on their heads, and entered waist-high brush where a shallow river flowed over small rocks. They threw themselves on the bank, moons of sweat under each arm. Man, it's hot, Lincoln grumbled. Is it always like this? In the summer, Mitsu said, opening the tackle box. They dipped their faces in the water, but didn't drink. They flicked off their gaita and let their feet cool in the water. They felt calm. A wind had picked up, rustling some low-lying brush where 2 sparrows were bickering. Is the Mississippi River very big? Mitsu asked, splicing a worm on his hook. Very big, but I've never seen it. Lincoln recalled classroom spelling bees when the word had stumped the boys' team. The girls had laughed at the boys who either put in one too many P's or not enough S's. And Lincoln figured that the word Mississippi should be banned from the English language. One day I'd like to go to America. Yeah, you and I could hang out together. You could stay with us. Mitsu smiled. Hang out, he murmured. Nice words. He stared at a ripple on the water. You'd like it. We can get my mom to take us to Great America. The roller coaster is tough. Lincoln stared at the water. His mind drifted to Oyama-sensei. She must have a sense of humor, he thought. Or why would she visit the Onos and not let on that she's a Kempo master? Lincoln smiled to himself. When his line went tight, he was ready and rose to his feet. He reeled the line in and found the hook snagged with nothing but slimy grass. They fished until 2 old men arrived and told them, go away, that it was their fishing spot. The men sat down with tired sighs and brought out a lunch and bottles of beer, which they rolled into the river to cool. Lincoln wanted to argue with them, but Mitsu touched his arm and begged, let's not. We didn't catch anything anyhow. One of the old men cast, and almost immediately a fish came up, its back shimmering in the sunlight. The old man grinned at Lincoln, showing his black teeth, as if to say, we're the real fishermen. From the river, the boys returned to the main highway, where they got a ride in the back of a truck loaded with chickens on the way to restaurants in Atami. It's sad, Lincoln said. They're going to have their throats cut. The chickens blinked their small little eyes at Lincoln and Mitsu and fluttered their wings occasionally. And only when the truck dipped into a pothole did the chickens cluck. And only when the truck braked did they panic and beat their wings against the wooden sides of the crates. When the truck pulled into town, the boys jumped off and waved to the driver, who waved to the chickens. Oh, Lincoln couldn't help himself, so he waved to the chickens. One of them seemed to raise a wing and salute. Adios, amigo. They started up the street and were skipping over puddles where the merchants had washed the storefronts, where Lincoln heard, Hey, Link, it's your car now. Lincoln stopped in his tracks and slowly turned around. It was Tony, in a blue and white yukata, a long robe, and gaita on his feet. His hair was shaved so he looked like a monk. Tony! Lincoln screamed. They ran to each other and shook hands Raza style. Lincoln raked his hand over Tony's hair and fingered the robe. Yeah, check this out. You look like a skinny Yojimbo. How'd you get the haircut? I gotta get mine cut for Kempo. Pussy, Haha did it. And check out mis sandalias. My shoes, wise guy. Tony wiggled his big toes and danced so that the wooden sandals sounded against the sidewalk. Lincoln introduced Tony to Mitsu, who bowed. Tony bowed and then shook hands Raza style. Mitsu smiled and asked, Please shake hands again. They shook hands slowly, over and over, until Mitsu pulled his hand away and muttered, Interesting. Where are you guys coming from? Tony asked as they walked down the street together. You look like Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn. We went fishing. Fishing? Where's the river? I don't see one. Always the joker. Tony shaded his eyes and looked skyward, then up and down the street. There's a river in town? They crossed the street and moved into the shadows that hugged the storefronts. It was not much cooler there. In fact, it might have even been hotter among the hordes of shoppers. As they passed the Soto, Lincoln asked Tony, You been here yet? Oh, man, 3 times a day, Tony said. Hace mucho calor in this barrio. I thought Japan was near the North Pole. How come it's so hot? It just is, Mitsu said, shrugging. The 3 of them stopped for bottles of Coca-Cola, which they drank while thumbing through comic books. Lincoln and Tony enjoyed the futuristic drawings. Mitsu asked Tony to come to the house for dinner, but Tony declined. Thank you, but my folks expect me. Turning to Lincoln, he said, Check this out, Holmes. He straightened his robe and stood straight. I'm an artist. What do you mean? I mean, I'm an artist. A regular Picasso. My family makes statues of these holy dudes, and I'm helping them out. Dudes? You know, saints or something, Mitsu said. Buddhas. Yeah, that's the guy and some other vatos. Lighten up, Tony. It's not cool to call them vatos, if they're saints. Tony thought for a moment. I guess you're right. Anyway, I gotta go. See ya. As Tony started to walk away, Lincoln pulled him aside, whispering, You know what would be really nice? If we could cook our familia's Mexican food. Tony snapped his fingers. Good idea. I tried to explain frijoles and enchiladas to them, but they didn't get it. But we don't have any beans or flour for tortillas. That's what you think, Tony grinned. You brought some? Lincoln asked, eyebrows lifted. Sure enough, 5-pound bag. You thought I was going to be in Japan 6 whole weeks and not grub on frijoles? Lincoln punched him in the arm. You're my main man, Tony. How about we meet at the Soto tomorrow, 4 o'clock? Sounds good. Catch you later. Lincoln turned to Mitsu, who had been watching them conspire. So make a plan. Lincoln and Mitsu started home, their fishing poles over their shoulders. It was not until they had gotten to the gate of the farm that Mitsu asked, Are you mad at Tony? Lincoln furrowed his brow. Mad? Yes, you hit him in the arm. No way, Lincoln said, closing the gate behind him. It's just something you do. Lincoln thought for a moment and then said, It's sort of like a bow. It means you like the person. Lincoln punched Mitsu in the arm softly. Mitsu reflected on the punch and then said, I like it.